Oh, you froze. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Depths of Laughter podcast. I am Vince Hoover. I am joined by a currently frozen Denise Jackson. I don't know what happened there. There she is. Hey, welcome back. Everybody say hi to Denise. Welcome to the very first episode of the Depths of Laughter podcast, where Denise and I will take kind of a deep dive into comedy. We are both long time stand up comedian fans, comedic movie fans, just comedy in general. But we've also spent hours upon hours till incredibly ridiculous hours in the morning, 3, 4, 5 in the
Yeah.
morning when some of us have to get up at, 7 a.m. But we talk about the deeper meaning behind comedy and some of the tragedy associated with it, some of the deeper emotional, spiritual, mental gymnastics that comes along with comedy as well.
hmm
And on today's episode, our very first episode, Denise and I had the extreme fortune of going to see arguably the greatest comedian that nobody's talking about. And that was last week on Wednesday. We got to go see Chad Daniels. For anybody who doesn't know, Chad Daniels is a Minnesota based comedian. He's been doing this for 20 years now. He's had several specials, including he had a big one on Amazon Prime just before the pandemic called Dad Channels. Just released another one on YouTube, in kind of a coming back from the pandemic kind of thing, which was hard on many comedians. He's
hmm
been on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, The Tonight Show. He was on David Letterman. He's done so many spots, and he's a comedian that other comedians know and respect and revere, but for some reason hasn't broken that mainstream glass ceiling yet. So let's start with talking
I
about
think
last
it's
week's show.
coming.
Yeah, but I there's a part of me that doesn't think he wants it either.
Maybe. I
So
mean,
that's something to
the
discuss as well.
depths of comedy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is I'm not 100% sure he wants that kind of mainstream big theater tour uh, demand. You know,
It would have been nice if his rep would have got back to us. We could have asked him that question and have known for sure.
yeah, that is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
obviously, Chad for Denise and I, Chad is one of our, if not very top, all time comedians for us. So that is somebody
Yeah.
that, as this podcast continues, we will continue to try to get him on. And I
Yes.
did give him my card when he was here, and hopefully he didn't throw it away. So we'll see how it goes. I am wearing one of his shirts.
Nice. Drive
Drive
safe,
safe,
don't
don't rape.
rape. And you have to say it that way too.
Yeah.
That's the only way to say it. And everybody
Um,
go look it up and you'll see why.
and I think it's one of the reasons that you and I like Chad so much is that he's willing to push that boundary, but he does it in such an
Yeah.
eloquent way. It's not a shock value. He's not a shock comic. He's not an overly obscene comic just again for shock value. There is like intention behind everything he says. There's intelligence behind everything he says.
hmm
And I think that's what makes him so great. But why don't you talk about the show?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, Kel, welcome,
Well,
welcome. Which, real quick, Kel, welcome to the show. Kel, if you can, please hit that follow button. You get yourself a dancing penguin. And Kel is actually going to be one of my guests on our other podcast, the Geeks and Noobs,
nice.
coming up in a couple weeks. He'll be here to talk about Moon Knight. So we've got that.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I'm looking forward to that.
and then on YouTube, we have some bots trying to get us to look at naked photos. So I've got to go block them real quick. But Denise, you tell us,
Okay.
you tell us about the show. Why I go block some Russian bots.
You don't want any Russian bots? Okay. Chad is just, he's so great at getting us to look at things from a different perspective and in a very funny way. And that's what this whole podcast is about. And it's about the depths of comedy. Like, yeah, you're laughing at a joke, but you can also strip that joke down and get down to the bare meaning of it. And there's a lot of ways that people can take Chad Daniels jokes. He is very funny about reading the audience and then saying he is you didn't like funny that about, oh, but you like reading the audience a couple minutes ago, and then so all of a sudden you're clapping for dead babies, but now but now you don't want to laugh at this joke. And it's just really funny how he pulls jokes back and makes you realize that, oh yeah, I guess I shouldn't have been not laughing at that when I'm going to laugh at this. So
No, and that's actually something like I noticed from this past Wednesday was because I ended up going to both showings, the 7:30 and um the 7:30 and the 9:30 showing. I went to both,
it was
and
supposed to be earlier than that, but he was like, you said he was ignoring the light saying get off the stage
yeah,
and bent
exactly.
over.
Yeah, sorry, I was just again having to block these Russian bots.
Wow.
Yeah, it's already fun. Already hit that follow button earlier today. Perfect, Kel. Appreciate it. Unfortunately, you didn't get the dancing penguin, but that's okay.
I want a dancing penguin. How do I get one?
You've already followed, so you don't get one either.
Oh, dang it. Can you unfollow and then follow again?
I mean, technically, yes, you can, but don't do that. Yeah, they're
Well,
still
what did you
man.
think about the
This bot is
goodness?
bot is relentless, and we just started.
Wow.
Like they are just like whatever their name is was hidden. Like they're still sending messages. That's funny. Anyways, go on. What was your question?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what did you think about the difference between the early show and then going to the late show?
One of the biggest differences again was the crowd work. It was the crowd itself. So it wasn't like the first show was sold out, but the second show was not. It was probably at honestly half capacity. I don't think the balcony areas filled up. I think it was just the floor that filled up. By the way, we're talking for anybody that's in the Tampa St. Pete area. There's a very amazing club called Side Splitters Comedy Club. Um, they also have a location in Nashville, and they have a location now in Wesley Chapel as well in a movie theater. But the main location's on North Del Mabry in Tampa. And so anybody who's familiar with that club kind of knows the layout. There is a floor section, which probably is almost 2/3 of the seats, and then there's two balconies that have just a few seats on them. The balconies were pretty much completely empty, except for a couple people wanted to sit up there away from the crowd, and then the floor was mostly full on the second show. On the first show, the crowd was kind of
Not enough alcohol in their system.
yeah, maybe because they just came from work and they hadn't started drinking yet. They
Yeah.
weren't loosening up, but they were like, but also it's Florida, and some of the things he said, like he went after the Confederacy, and
Yeah.
people weren't really happy about that. Now the balcony levels where you and I were sitting, and the other side, we were all going
Yeah.
nuts. We were all having a blast, but that's overshadowed by the oohs and ahs and the hums coming from the meh brains, which that's a Chad Daniels thing. The people
Look
with
that
meh
up,
brains.
people. Yeah,
Um,
brains.
the floor was unfortunately full of that. So what he did was instead of trying to like, oh, let me placate to the audience, let me move away from that because they're not liking it, was no. I've now got 9 more jokes
Yeah.
about the Confederate flag that I'm going to do all of them now
Yeah.
because fuck all of you. And
Hmm.
that was great. But on the second show, he did the one main joke about the Confederate flag, and we all laughed. So he just moved on. So we got
Hmm.
other stories because he didn't eat up all his time with the Confederate flag stuff. We got other stories like this fantastic story about him on a plane ride. Um, that I was so fortunate to be able to tell Denise over the phone that because she didn't get to see it. And
Yeah.
my camera froze again, and we're having all kinds of technical issues. This is fun. Just a moment, guys. I will be right back. There it
We're
goes.
good.
It
We're
came
good.
back. All right. Oh,
Yeah.
it zoomed in. It's a little
I think
weird.
it's because your dancing blue light in the background's taking up all the attention.
That's the one bad. I have this amazing camera. I love my camera so very much, but the one bad thing is it does have latency issues when it comes to any LED lights. So it looks like my light is running up and down in the camera, but it's not. It's just it doesn't do well
Oh,
with that, but it's fine.
perspective.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about today. So look at that.
it is true. But again, for those of you not who are unfamiliar with Chad Daniels, I mean, just go to YouTube. His latest show is completely free on YouTube. Just type in Chad Daniels and you'll find it right away.
Hmm.
The guy is absolutely amazing. He also has a wonderful podcast if you're interested called Middle of Somewhere. Um, But I think what Chad brings to the table is the fact that he's fearless,
Yeah.
and he's willing to talk about things, and if the crowd doesn't like it, oh well, this is what I came to do, and this is what you paid to see. So
Well, he'll just bring you back in on the next joke and then make you feel like an asshole for not laughing at the other jokes.
yeah,
He's
like he
really good
literally
about
like
that.
I mean we legit I mean you and I both own the shirt, the Clap Brain shirt, based on a
Yes.
joke from one of his biggest albums was called "You're the Best," and this is so
Mhm.
Denise and I very first found out about Chad Daniels when I was in the Army up in Tacoma, Washington. There was a great club there called Tacoma Comedy Club, and I would go up as often as I could. And one of the times Chad was there, and he just killed it, just killed it,
Yeah.
as he always does. I've never been to a bad show, and so I bought the album from his merch table, brought it home, played it for Denise, and we wore that thing out.
Yes.
That became our go-to play in the car. Like just put that CD on and go.
What was your favorite joke from that CD?
Oh, it's a good question.
um,
I think the whole part about when he used to have a black girlfriend in college,
yes.
and then like he always knew when she was mad at him because she'd be like, "Mm-hmm." But if she was ever like walking up behind him, he wasn't sure if it was her or if there was a shark after him. That entire bit, which runs, it's like a 15-minute almost bit by itself, because there's so much more,
Yeah.
because it's so layered. Because then like he's like, I didn't know if there was a shark behind me, and I didn't know if she'd save me because most black people don't like to swim in the ocean. And then he goes on his whole thing. He's like, now I chose my words very carefully. I said most, not all. And like there's this whole thing, and it's like the whole like, and if you're
So don't like, not can't.
yeah, and he's like, and if you're Asian and Mexican and you were offended by that, shut up. Some things are black and white only. Like that whole joke, it should be offensive.
Yeah.
Like if told by a different comic, that joke comes out so
Yeah.
offensive because you don't tell it correctly. So told by another comic who isn't as smart or tries the shock value, that joke's gonna
Right.
end up being offensive. And
Right.
Chad just nails it.
hmm I like the reason why it's called "You're the Best," and that is my favorite joke
The
was
airport.
because they're like, yes, well, if you don't want pickle on your burger, then why don't you just order? When I don't want pickle on my burger, I just order it without the pickle. And he's like, well, you're the best. Didn't you get your memo? You won life. That's so funny. I would love to say that to somebody one time. My God,
Yeah, I
you're
know.
the best.
It's one of those things that I was like, oh, you're almost looking for that moment.
I know. I
And
know.
the whole, the whole part about him, like where he brings out the podium with his kids, which now his daughter's
Yes,
18, which is insane because we've been like,
I
you know,
know.
she was she was 9 when that special came out
Yeah.
or when that CD came out. Um, but that whole segment about the podium and everything has become a
Yeah.
trending sound on TikTok, where people
Nice.
will lip sync to it and like kind of act it out.
Oh, cool.
And
Okay. I'll have to look into that.
a couple other of his jokes have taken off that way too, which is great.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I guess we need to, like, he really does need to give us some free merch or something. Like, I'm serious. We hands down are the reason why he's at Side Splitters. We have put him down on all those comment cards of what comic would you like to see? We always wrote Chad Daniels.
so let's tell the full story there. So
Yeah, go ahead.
when I got out of the army and we moved back down here, um, and I keep saying we, and let me preface this is that Denise and I actually used to be married. We have divorced just a few years ago, but we are still the best of friends. I know that's really weird. Maybe that's a story for
Yeah.
another time. But that's
Yeah.
why I keep
Yeah.
saying we, because at the time
Yeah.
we were married. So,
Right.
I know that's going to end up being a story for another time, but we'll get to that.
Right. Right.
Um, so when we moved back down here after I medically retired from the army, we decided to go. It was kind of one of those like strange kind of date nights where we didn't have any plans, and we happened to be in North Carolwood. We're like, well, there's side splitters. Let's see if there's a comedy show going. And sure enough, Happy Cole was in town. He's a pretty regular comic at Side Splitters, and it was a Friday night, I think, and we went in and got some balcony seats because that was what was available. Just randomly went to a comedy show. So when we got there, there are these comment cards on your table. You fill them out with your name, your email address, how your server did, how the show was, and then what comics you would like to see. Well, we put down Chad Daniels, and then what happens at the end of the night, they then pick one of those comment cards at random to give you free tickets to another show. I won those free tickets that night. So we were like, cool. So 2 weeks later, we went back. Filled out the comment cards again, put Chad Daniels' name down again, and I won again. It's like, awesome. So we went back the next week. Filled out the comment cards again, put down Chad Daniels' name again, and I won again. This went on for almost 10 weeks.
Well, also I won in between that, and I was in the restroom, and they called my name, and you had to go get it.
Yeah, and I had to go up and get it because you were in the restroom. That's right. So one of them, I didn't actually win, but I was still the one that had to walk up on stage to get it. It got to a point where there were people who were regulars of the show audibly went, not this guy again. And there were people thinking it was completely rigged. I won. It was between her and I. It was like a 10-week straight winning streak of tickets.
Fun.
We didn't pay for
and a whole bunch of Chad Daniels.
Yeah, and we didn't pay for a comedy show for like 6 months.
Well, you kind of do because it's 2 item minimum.
2 item minimum,
and
yes.
then we were bringing people, and
but
it wasn't like they picked the wrong person to win.
They were like 10 packs of tickets too, like so.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like it was. So we brought friends. They made their money. They weren't worried about it.
Yeah.
But every single time we put down Chad Daniels, and sure enough, not 4 months after my winning streak finally ended, he was booked and there in the show for the first time. Now he comes once a year and does a special it's a special event. Like they charge extra for him to come because it's such a big deal. He's been doing a couple Wednesday shows. This past time was a Wednesday, and right before the pandemic, he did one in February of 2020, which I want to talk about that show in a little bit because that was beyond amazing. He did tell me though, when I talked to him after the show, the second show, is that he does plan on coming back next year, but he's going to do a weekend because he wants to be here and do the whole weekend. So it'll be Friday, cool, Saturday, Sunday. So I've got a lot of Chad Daniels to see that weekend. I will probably end up going to most of those, if not all of those shows.
Oh, I know. We haven't missed it at all when he's been here, but I would just really love if his rep would, or just him personally, like, come on, let us ask you some questions for the podcast.
Well, that's something too, is I'm going to probably reach out to him via like Instagram or Twitter. Figure I'll skip the rep and just go that route. But,
oh my God, his Obama clip where he's like, he's beige. Go to Home Depot, get the paint sample strip. You can take that home. You're not going to get in trouble. The next press conference, hold it up to the TV. Beige. And then, have you ever been in the Deep South? And I'm not talking about the South with the books and learning. I'm talking about where they end their sentences with oh my God, don't get lost, because those people will eat you, have sex with you in a row. Oh my God.
Yeah, they will kill you, eat you, and have sex with you in a row.
Yeah. Yes.
No, he's fantastic. So I want like his show. I want to discuss his show from February of 2020. Unfortunately, Denise wasn't able to make that show. But I went, and instead of doing 2 shows that night, he just did 1, and it was an 8 o'clock show. He didn't get off stage until after 11:30.
Wow.
He just went off. And it was one of those things that like he obviously had prepared work because he was working on a new special, but he barely did any of the prepared work because it was just he did a whole lot on Florida, which he loves to pick on Florida a lot, and he has ample reason to
Yeah,
do so. He's completely justified
yeah.
in everything he says.
You won't run
Um,
out of stuff.
yeah, but so he did that. That was the first 15 minutes, was just him going off on things that happened while he was in Tampa. Um, then like there was a fly in the club that kept bothering him, and finally one of the guys at one of the front tables actually caught it. So he spent 5 minutes in just amazed that the guy was able to catch the fly. Like, it's like he's like, "Did you guys see that?" Like, no, we're stopping the show. Did you guys see what this guy just? He just Mr. Miyagi that fly right out of the air. He was talking about Minnesota, and he saw a woman like in the second row who, she was a tall blonde woman, looked Scandinavian, looked like a Minnesotan, and he picked it up. Sure enough, she was from the same town he was from, and like he
Wow.
was picking on her, but she was taking it in stride, and they were just in a great back and forth. It was so good. Like he had somebody kicked out of the club because they were being ridiculously loud and trying to heckle, and like he shut them down immediately, and we all like just lost it. And then that person got kicked out, and like I said, he went from 8 o'clock to after 11:30. Like there was no opening act this time. Like this when we went this past Wednesday, there was a host and an opening act. And the opening act was great. I can't remember his name to save my life, and I feel
Yes.
so bad about that.
Yes.
He was
I
really,
know,
really,
because he
really
was
good.
hilarious. Yes.
Was it? It was Josh or
It sounds like that.
it was
Yeah,
Josh
something like
something.
that.
I'll call
That's,
Side Splitters and get the guy's name because he was so good. I want to get more about
can
him.
we not look it up?
I don't know if he was listed on it,
Oh,
but when he did the show in 2020, it was just a host, and the host didn't even do a 5 minute set. The host just introduced him, so it was all Chad, and it was amazing. And that's one of the reasons I recommend people listen to the podcast, is because his podcast
yeah.
Middle of Somewhere is just him and another fellow comedian, Cy, just telling stories and kind of just going off, and it's kind of like stand up but with no restrictions. They're not trying, so it's more free. It's freeing to them.
Uh-huh.
Kel says he went to his first comedy show a few weeks ago and saw Gabriel Iglesias.
Oh, he was
That
funny.
Gabriel's great, but that's kind of setting the bar
Yeah.
high. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's like starting with a filet mignon for your first steak. Um, Gabriel is
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing. Love him to death. Um,
But Chad Daniels would not disappoint you. Like
no,
if you
not at
looked it
all.
up,
Like,
you would not be disappointed.
but that's the thing. Okay, that's a great segue. I put Chad on that level, but he's not
Yeah.
doing stadium tours. Like I find
Right.
Chad to be like Gabriel again is a legend.
Yeah.
He's actually been doing it longer than Chad. He's been doing it since he was 16 years old. He had his
Right.
first stand-up special on Comedy Central at 16. Gabriel did. I watched it in the 90s. Um, Gabriel is a true legend of the art, but to me, Chad Daniels is above him in ability and joke telling. But Gabriel's doing these massive stadium tours and all these
Hmm.
humongous things, whereas Chad, Side Splitters isn't even the like quote unquote premier club of Tampa. That's the Tampa Improv in Ybor.
Right.
But he doesn't do that place because it's too big. He likes the intimate setting. He likes the smaller club. He likes that. He likes a couple hundred people versus a couple thousand. You know, not that he would turn down money, but at the same time, he wants to do the more intimate club. And so that's a great point. Like, so why is Gabriel as big as he is doing stadium tours and Chad isn't?
It's that catchphrase. Gabriel has I'm fluffy. He literally coined hangry. I'm sorry for what I said when I was hungry. Like,
Yeah, he
and
did the
Chad's
yeah.
doing that. So it's just, I don't know. It's a Chad's crowd is going to be a lot smaller than Gabriel's crowd. You know?
Well, I also think part of it is that like Gabriel, one, he got that comedy special at 16, so he was on national TV early. All his comedy specials were like on HBO and like these major things. Chad's never even had a Netflix deal yet.
I thought he
He got,
did. Oh,
No, he got Amazon. He got the Amazon deal this past year, and hopefully he'll get to do another one via Amazon because that's
oh,
Amazon's becoming an even bigger platform than it already was. Like their Amazon originals are really taking off with Good Omens, The Boys, shows like that.
yeah,
Amazon is starting, and now Amazon has football. Amazon is the exclusive Thursday night football channel, so they're starting to pick up. So him getting specials on Amazon will be helpful for him. But Netflix is
yeah,
still like, as a comedian, you want to get that Netflix deal because they pay you a ridiculous amount of money to have a special. Like, so, but before then, before we had streaming services back in the day, because we're old, if you got a stand up special on HBO, that was winning the lottery. That was hitting the big time.
yeah,
That was a big deal. Comedy Central was the next step. Like, it was like, if you couldn't get HBO,
oh,
but you got
yeah,
Comedy Central, big deal. Chad has been on Comedy Central, but never as a standalone. Like he was part of like an ensemble comedy show where it was like multiple stand-ups. And there's
sworn that he had a special somewhere though.
he has one on Amazon, the Dad
Okay,
Channels. He has that
okay,
one. And he has the one on YouTube.
huh,
He
okay,
he has another one that was on. Um, it's a version of the Year the Best album, but it's the jokes.
yeah,
It's slightly different because it was told before the recording. So it's him still working through the material, getting it, refining it to the album level. That
uh,
special was on Stars or Epics, one of those, but it's now free on Amazon as well. So he's had specials, and he's been on the Tonight Show, he's been on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
yeah.
He's been on plenty of things, but he just hasn't for some reason reached that. He hasn't reached that. Uh, why? Why is it only want to scan when I'm okay? Yes, the only time this thing wants to scan is when I am doing a stream. It's like it knows. It's like, ha ha ha, ha fuck with him. Let's scan now. Sorry. Um,
What do you think sets Chad apart from, well, we can use Gabriel then. What do you think sets him apart as far as his delivery, his material? What do you think makes him Chad and not falling into all the other comedians out there? Because you and I, we like a whole bunch of comedians and we've watched a whole bunch of specials and um oh my gosh, so many just of random comics. But I don't know. What do you think it is that sets Chad apart?
well, I think that's a good point. Is that you and I are not like niche comedic lovers. Like most people are. Most people have like a certain type of comedy they like. It's either like
Yeah,
Kevin Hart and his style they like,
yeah,
or uh, Jerry Seinfeld and his style, or
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's people that have like
Bob
Bob
Saget.
Saget, yes, who unfortunately passed
Yeah,
away.
yeah,
But you and I have a very healthy love of comedy that we love all these different types of comedians. We like roast comedy, but we also like the good, clean, wholesome stuff. Like we like,
right.
we're all over the board. And I think one of the things that makes Chad so good and so different is that he doesn't fall into any one category. He
Yeah,
is
that's true.
he is in a way an angry comic, but at the same time, he's a
Yeah.
self-deprecating comic. But at the same
He's not
time,
angry in the sense of what's the one guy that you really, really loved? Uh, I'm thinking like the comic's name was Carl, but his best friend was like a kind of heavy set guy. Louis, is it Louis something? And he was an angry comic. Like he yelled all the time. So he's
oh,
not
Lewis
like
Black.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, not Louis Black. It was
Lewis Black is
somebody
definitely an
else,
angry
but
comedian.
yeah, yeah. But he's not like to that extreme.
No, but he's if you go back and listen to his stuff, you hear there's a lot of like He's quick to, like, he talks about having a short fuse, and he's quick to anger, and some of his jokes
Yeah.
about like the pizza shop by his house that he continually goes to even though they continuously screw up his order. Um but he has that angry comic mentality, but at the same time he has the self-deprecating mentality. He has the ability to roast the crowd, but at the same time do crowd work. Um,
Yeah.
he talks a lot about his kids, so he has that familial, kind of like, you have like Jim Gaffigan, who's obviously a very like family-oriented comic. Very rarely
Yeah.
curses, like talks a lot of his family for most of the show. Um, Chad does that in part, but he is still, for lack of a better term, foul mouth because he's willing to cuss, you know, and he he bridges all these gaps into the niches of comedy, and he does it effortlessly.
Yeah.
Like, you're not realizing you're transitioning out of one style into another until the show's over and you overanalyze the show.
Hmm.
Like, if you like, and I'm only really noticing it now because this is kind of what we're doing. He When you asked that question, I couldn't have told you until I broke it down. What makes him different is that, and that could actually be part of his detriment, because niche comics tend to do better when you have one style. Like, I would say that the only comic I can think of that has the most mainstream without being a niche comic is Dave Chappelle. And although his last special, not exactly great, problematic to say the least, um, he every stand-up special for him is different. He evolves with each
Hmm.
special, and so Dave Chappelle isn't really in one type of niche of comedy either.
Right.
But Dave also, again, has like, 30 plus years in the business, had movies made, the whole
Yeah.
nine, Half Baked, etc. Um, Legit legend of comedy. So
I would say Louis C.K. kind of fits into that too. I know that he had like
he
his
used
own
to.
stuff, or whatever.
Yeah, he used
But
to.
yeah, well, he is still one of my favorite comedians. I really like his stuff. He cracks me up.
Everything that happened before the whole problematic thing that came out about him, that stand up is still some of my all time favorite stand up.
Yeah.
His new stand up, because he's tried to, I think he's realized what he
Well,
did wrong, and what he did was majorly wrong. Like,
yeah.
majorly wrong.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
instead of trying to get back to who he was, and he worried too much about what audience he might have, and he has in sense turned his comedy to placate the people that would actually approve of what he did. And that's not the
Yeah.
audience you want. But he's now kind of fallen into this whole alt right, white supremacist, QAnon type of comedy, and it's not good anymore. But I still, and that's where sometimes you have to separate the art from the artist. His old stuff is still some of the best stand up ever, and he changed the game by
Yeah.
firing directors and producers and all that stuff, and firing production studios, and doing it all himself.
Well, I would say like then Chad is really good about that because he can talk about those sensitive subjects and it be funny and it doesn't feel like
Well, that's because he's not
uh
done the sensitive subject. That's the problem
yeah.
with Louis C.K. is that Louis C.K. was sexually assaulting female comedians. you know, that's not good. And
Well, I'm just talking about the joke in general. Like Chad has a way of
yeah,
delivering it as opposed to how Louis C.K. did. And that
well,
it makes you still want to listen more.
there's a great thing, and you brought up another one, Jim Jefferies. You brought up as well when you and I talked about
Yeah,
this the other night.
I like him. Yeah.
Jim Jefferies and Louis C.K. I'm gonna put in the same corner because they do it. While they're incredibly funny and there are poignant moments in what they say, the way they deliver it and the things they say are meant for shock value.
Uh-huh.
It is meant
Yeah.
to come off like Jim Jefferies is meant to come off misogynistic.
Yeah.
Like it's meant to. Like he does that. It's on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Chad tells the same type of joke, but in a way that is not. It's not misogynistic. It is not aggressive. It is not done in a shock value kind of way. But it
Oh,
could be to a certain person still be shocking.
yeah.
But
We
it's the
pointed those people out just sitting there waiting for
yeah
the show to happen.
yeah yeah we did that.
That was funny.
Yeah, like that person's
We
gonna be
were
a
definitely
Karen.
labeling.
That person's
Yes.
gonna be a Karen, and we were right. Um,
Yes, we were.
but like because it's not the joke that's now shocking. It's not the delivery that is shocking. It is the subject matter
Yeah.
that no matter if you even if you were just talking about it straight face, not jokingly, the subject matter itself is still shocking. Like drive safe, don't rape. That whole thing where he's talking to his son, he goes on a tirade about how it's not fair that there are such different rules at parties because he has a daughter and a son. His daughter, he
Yeah.
has to be like, okay, so while you're at this party, don't go into the woods with your guy friends, even though they are just your guy friends, and nothing actually happens. You know, people are gonna talk and they're gonna call you a slut and they're gonna treat you like, and make sure you
Right.
keep your cap on your water. And he has to give all these rules to his daughter. And with his son, it's just drive safe, don't rape. Because he can't give the same rules. He's like, yeah, don't go into the woods with a bunch of girls because then people are gonna talk and it's gonna be awesome. You know, because it's a
um,
different, it's a double
yeah.
standard. And
You get high fives coming out
yeah,
of the woods if that
so
was the case.
it's the subject matter that's shocking, not the way he delivers the joke. And that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Is that Louis C.K. and Jim Jefferies and like Anthony Jeselnik. I say that name and I know you don't know who that is, but you know the comic.
No.
He's a really
Okay.
tall, skinny, flat top wearing guy, talks in a kind of low tone, and all of his jokes are just it's like roasting or shock value. He's a roast comic, and like he tells jokes about like dropping babies and you know killing an Alzheimer's person, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but again, I think Anthony Jeselnik, he's funny, but it's those comedians do it for shock value,
Well, yeah.
whereas Chad takes those same topics. I mean, not dropping babies or killing people with Alzheimer's, but these shocking topics, and he talks about them in a way that is funny, but poignant. And
Hmm.
while, and if it shocks you, that's on you and not on him.
Right. And he
That's on
literally
you
says
being,
that.
that's on you being a little too touchy to be at a comedy show. That's on you being too sensitive.
Yeah.
These are important
He was.
subjects. They are sensitive subjects, but not something that you can't joke about. Like
He's
his
like,
whole,
you do know that you literally made the choice to come to a comedy show. Like, you're
yeah,
not in an office
you drove
meeting.
here.
Like, yeah,
You found it.
you
It's
made
not
the
easy to
choice.
find.
You turn left, go two rights, and then good fucking
Yeah.
luck. He even says that in one of his specials.
Um.
I think that is in the You're the Best one, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's in the year of the best one. It's all about
Yeah.
the merit brains.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
Which
Everybody needs to go look up
honestly,
that
Denise, and
joke.
this is something I'm going to throw it out there now. You and I need to plan a trip to the Acme Comedy Club in Minnesota, his home club,
Oh, gosh, that would be
because
awesome.
listening to him inside talk about doing comedy there, that show that I got last in February of 2020 would probably be nothing compared to what he does at Acme. And in
Wow.
fact, when I went to the second show, before I got a chance to talk to him, the couple in front of me, they were from Minnesota. They were down in Florida visiting family, saw his show, and they're like, now they're going to go see him in Acme. And he even
Nice.
said, he's like, oh, well, if you thought this was good, be prepared for
Oh,
Acme.
awesome. Because he's
So
home. That's cool.
it's home for him. It's his home club. So you and I do
That's
need to plan
neat.
a trip to go up there.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Isn't that where we got barbecue and it wasn't that great? Or
No, that was Kansas
was,
City,
oh, yeah, yeah.
Missouri.
Oh, yeah,
Fuck
yeah.
that barbecue.
Right?
Um,
You get better off on the side of the road barbecue than there. And they're supposed to be known for it. That was unfortunate.
so yeah, Kansas City is known for their barbecue. We got all excited. We looked up every review we could find. We've like, what is the
Yeah.
absolute best barbecue place in Kansas City? We looked at every review we could find. We found like Travel Channel and Food Network and Yelp, and we went through all these different reviews. We found a place that was top notch, had thousands upon
Yeah.
thousands upon thousands of reviews, 5 star. That was dog shit. That was awful barbecue. We were so pissed.
Yeah, it was.
Arguably the best barbecue I've ever had, and we only got to have it like once or twice, you and I, was that Jamaican barbecue place down in South Tampa.
Yeah.
It was that pull-up
Oh,
place.
it's
You remember
hole
that
in the
place?
wall.
That hole
You
in the
get good
wall,
food from hole in the wall
the
stuff.
hole in the wall Jamaican
Man.
barbecue place. It was an
Yes.
infusion of Jamaican cooking with barbecue. So
Yeah.
good, and unfortunately they closed down.
Yeah.
But so good.
Oh my god. So
Um,
want some now. Yeah.
yeah. So no, it wasn't Minnesota.
Good barbecue.
I don't think Minnesota's known
No.
for their food of any kind.
Oh.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
But
Well, they're known for Chad Daniels, so there you go.
yeah, and the Vikings, but they suck. Uh, Nothing worse than bad barbecue. Yeah, bad food in
Yeah.
general. There's nothing worse.
Well, we were doing that whole drive like from Florida to Washington State. So it was cool like hitting up everything, and we wanted to make sure that we Kansas City barbecue like
that was the only disappointing part
yeah.
of that trip.
Oh
Everything else was cool. Like
my god.
we didn't get to see the St. Louis Arch during the day, but oh well.
We did get a picture of it
At night, yeah,
as
we
we
drove
drove
by.
by.
And I can tell you this,
There
I
it
went
is.
look, I went to St. Louis. I went to St. Louis last month or a little bit over a month ago for the Royal Rumble. You're missing absolutely nothing by not ever going to St. Louis. Not a saw the Arch.
That's like
It's St.
our
Louis
thoughts on Texas. Oh
man.
my god.
Like there's parts of
Oh.
Texas that like Austin, Texas, and maybe even San Antonio are probably really nice places. Dallas, Texas sucks.
Well, we're just like, can we please get out of this state?
So
How
Dallas,
much longer are we going to
it is
be
a massive.
here?
We drove, unfortunately, the longest part of it on the way back. We were
Oh
driving
my
the southern route, and I
god.
regret every second of the southern route. But when we finally got to now, you have to remember Dallas is on the eastern side of Texas.
Yeah.
We were driving across. The only state longer that you spend time in is if you drive south through California.
Yeah.
But luckily, we cut out of California about halfway into Nevada. But if you'd have driven
We
the
did
entire
get to see Area 51. That
yes,
was neat.
that we did. We did get to see Area 51, but we didn't get to see the Grand Canyon because it was much further north than we thought. Like it's far north in
Yeah.
Arizona. That was weird. But anyways, so we're driving through, and then in Dallas, we see Dallas is coming up on our map, but we only have to go through the northern tip of Dallas, and it's only a 7 mile stretch, right? 7 miles. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Took us 2 hours to go seven
Yeah.
fucking miles.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Worst drivers ever.
We also watched somebody get in a wreck while they rubbernecked looking at another wreck.
I know. Are we in Florida?
Yeah. Oh, another thing. Don't think global warming's real? Drive from northern United States. Take the southern route. There is little to no roadkill in the northern
Oh
America.
my god. Yes, I
The
remember
further
that.
south you go, the hotter
Yeah.
it gets, the more
Yeah.
animals decide they want to kill themselves by vehicular manslaughter. There is a direct correlation with going south, getting hotter, and roadkill.
Yes,
As soon as we got
that's
into
very
Texas, the
true.
roadkill picked up. Then you get into like Louisiana, more roadkill, a little bit of Mississippi, and then Alabama, and then you get into Florida, and it's just roadkill central. Just
Pancakes all over the place.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like I said, there are so many deer up in Washington, and
Yeah.
yet
Elk too.
Yeah.
We would have
Deer,
we would
elk.
almost get ran over by elk. They would run into us.
at least you weren't headbutt by one like I was.
Oh my god. That was fun.
Yeah, I should probably tell that
But
story. Okay.
Anyway, another comedian that is he's from Oregon, but we haven't talked about him at all. Matt Bronger. He kind of reminds me of Chad Daniels,
Style.
Jim Jefferies, and like Kevin Hart all rolled into one.
Well, they do fall under what's called the story comic. So you have the one-liner comic, the joke comic, and the roast comic and the story comic.
Okay.
The one-liner comic is kind of like,
Dimitri Martin.
yes, Dimitri Martin, Mitch Hedberg, God rest his soul. They're like where it's like each joke is just it's a one-liner punchline joke. Then you've got
Yeah.
comedians that it's a 2 or 3 minute joke, but it's truly a joke. Like it's like, what do you get when this and this come
Yeah.
together? You know, it's like the almost like dad joke kind of level.
Yeah.
Then you have the roast comic, which is all insulting, or you have the shock comic, where it's all about shock value. Then you have the story comic, where they're storytellers,
Mhm.
and they're and like some of them even find comedian being called a comedian is almost like a sideways insult because they're just
Okay.
telling stories. They just happen to be funny stories.
Oh. Well,
Um,
that would be, and that would fall in line with your guy that you love. Um, uh,
yeah, I miss Mitch too. He was a great comic.
who am I talking about? The dark comic that he's kind of like a story. He's in his own category altogether.
I really wish I knew who you're talking about.
Oh, you do know who I'm talking about. You want me to watch his special, and I'm like, I have to get myself in that mindset
Oh,
to
Bo
watch
Burnham.
it.
Well,
Yes,
that was the next. That was my
he's
next. That was my next thing because you
yeah,
also have musical comedians.
right.
But I think Bo even transcends that. Like Stephen Lynch,
Yeah,
great musical comedian. But even him, he hates being called a stand-up comedian because, especially since he's evolved his music to be like he has, like his music now. It's not just him and a guitar. Stephen Lynch, I'm talking about. He's got a mandolin, he's got a piano, he's got a cellist, he's got
neat.
a woman singing with him now for duets. Like, he
Oh,
has
so
a
he's
song.
doing something else.
He has a song called "No Meat." It's basically making fun of vegans, and it's like like one of the lines is "tofurkey, to fuck yourself," and I want that on a
Oh
T-shirt.
my,
Um,
that's awesome.
but if you listen to the song without really, if you kind of like zone the lyrics out a bit so you're not laughing, and just listen to the song, it is like that whole special is truly one of the most beautiful. It's so beautiful sounding with the mandolin playing and the cellist in the background. It sounds like
Yeah,
it's like this impressive thing. And Bo has done the same thing. Bo has transcended from just a kid with a piano to this insane storyteller that transcends comedy, and he really did it with the special Inside. And I really, really want you to watch that because that is one we can truly deep dive into because it is so, so good for
yes.
so many reasons. Like he has a song about Instagram white woman. Like that, it's just hilarious. But at the same time,
Well, yeah,
he's also in every shot of that of the special is he's actually doing the poses and dressing like these Instagram white women. It's so funny. And but then there's songs about you know is now a good time to even do comedy? Like, is it appropriate to be doing comedy as the pandemic goes on? And stuff like, and
right.
the world burns down. Is it appropriate to be funny? But then he turns that around and makes it about, of course it is. I'm a white guy. Like, I,
Yeah, yeah,
so, so that there's so much to that. So I definitely want to do that. I think that, um, for our first episode, we can end it right about here because we've got so much more to cover. Chad Daniels is somebody that we're probably going to
yes.
talk about
Oh,
all
yes.
the time.
Off and on, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If at all possible, if maybe by next Monday you could watch Inside, I really think that'd be a great one. If not, there's plenty of other things we can talk about as well. Um,
Hmm.
but that episode is going to be an amazing one. So, guys, this is Depths of Laughter. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We're going to be doing this every Monday. We started later tonight than we normally would, but we're going to be doing it at 8 o'clock on Mondays. It will be
Hmm.
up on the schedule. As always, please follow our YouTube. If you have any suggestions for comedians you want us to check out, please let us know. We'll look into it.
Yeah, that would
I
be
think
great.
I do want to. We're gonna have an episode. It's gonna be a fair warning. There will be an episode coming up in the next couple episodes. We will do a deep dive into comedians we've lost and what they meant to us. Bob
Yes.
Saget, Mitch Hedberg, Robin Williams. Which is there
Yeah.
will be tears in this episode. I promise you.
Yeah.
So as much as this is all about fun, it's also about the emotion behind it. So that some of these episodes will be a little bit more heartstring pulley, but we have all that coming up. Denise, what do you got going on? Let the people know anything that you want them to know.
Oh gosh. Well, I think it's important to really understand what these jokes are actually trying to get across. You know, like it's funny, but they're people too, and at the end of the day, they're trying to get a message across, and maybe it will help somebody to just get to the bottom of it. That's, I mean, this is what this podcast is about. It is about the jokes, and but it's the depth of comedy, and that's why we decided to do this. So I'm looking forward to doing that and doing more episodes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun, and but it's also gonna you're gonna learn a lot because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
there's that old cliche that um, comedians are one bad joke away from suicide, and that's sad.
Right.
But a
And it
lot of
is.
comedians are comedians because they are broken people, and this is
Well,
kind of their
yeah.
therapy. And so it's similar to like how musicians work, and we're gonna cover
Hmm.
that. It's because it's important.
Yeah.
So thank everybody for checking this out. Please be a friend, tell a friend, let your friends know about this every Monday 8 p.m. Live on Twitch and YouTube. The Depths of Comedy, and we will see you guys next week.
Free therapy.